Hello there.
There's a particular kind of quiet that only exists late at night. Not the peaceful kind. Not the kind that wraps around you like a blanket and tells you to rest. This is the other kind. The kind that sits beside you on the edge of the bed, uninvited, while the rest of the world has already gone to sleep. The fan hums. Somewhere outside, a car passes. The glow of your phone screen dims, then disappears, and suddenly the room feels too still. And in that stillness, your mind starts to move. Did I do enough today? You scroll back through the hours. The emails. The tasks. The things you checked off and the things you didn't. You replay the afternoon like a film reel, searching for proof, some kind of evidence, that today was worth something. That you were worth something. It's a strange ritual, isn't it? This quiet courtroom we build for ourselves at the end of every day. And here's the thing nobody really talks about. For a lot of us, the only way to quiet that voice is to stay busy. Not because we love the chaos. Not because the schedule makes us happy. But because as long as we are moving, as long as there's something on the list, something being produced or finished or handled, the silence never quite gets a chance to ask its questions. Busyness becomes a kind of answer. A placeholder. A way of saying, see? Look at everything I'm doing. Surely that means I'm enough. And we never stop to ask, enough for what, exactly? Enough for whom? Think about how we were raised to talk about time. Don't waste it. Make the most of it. What did you accomplish today? As if every hour is a transaction, and at the end of the day, you'd better have something to show for it. We grew up watching the people around us measure their worth in output. A parent who never sat down. A teacher who praised the students who stayed the latest. A culture that turned "I've been so busy" into a greeting, almost a badge of honor, something you say with tired eyes but a quiet kind of pride. And slowly, without anyone announcing it, a belief settled into us like dust on an old shelf. That rest is something you earn. That stillness has to be deserved. That simply existing, without producing, without achieving, without being useful to someone, is not quite enough. It's a heavy thing to carry. And the strange part is, most of us don't even know we are carrying it. Psychologists sometimes talk about something called contingent self-worth, the idea that our sense of value isn't fixed. It rises and falls depending on what we do, how much we finish, how others see us. And when your worth feels conditional like that, stillness starts to feel dangerous. Because in stillness, there's no performance. No proof. Just you, and that quiet, waiting question. Am I enough, even like this? So we fill the hours. We make the lists longer than they need to be. We say yes to things that exhaust us, not because we want to, but because staying busy feels like staying safe. Like as long as we keep moving, we don't have to face the possibility that the answer might be no. It's not laziness that drives people to overwork. It's fear, dressed up in a planner and a full calendar. And honestly, that makes complete sense. Because the world gave us very few mirrors that reflected our worth on an ordinary Tuesday, when nothing special happened, when nothing was finished, when we just were. Those mirrors were rare. So we built our own, out of productivity, out of business, out of the satisfying click of a task marked done. You're not broken for feeling this way. You learned it. And most of what we learn can be gently unlearned. I remember a specific Sunday, maybe 2 years ago now. It was the kind of Sunday that should have felt like a gift. No deadlines. No notifications that needed answering. The light coming through the curtains was that soft, golden kind, the type that makes everything look a little warmer than it actually is. My coffee was still hot. The morning was genuinely, quietly beautiful. And I was miserable. Not in a dramatic way. Not the kind of miserable that announces itself. It was more like a low hum underneath everything. A subtle, restless discomfort that I couldn't quite name or locate. I sat on the couch with my coffee and I tried to just be there. To enjoy it, the way people in movies enjoy their slow mornings. Feet tucked under them, content, unbothered. But within maybe 10 minutes, I was reaching for my phone. I told myself I was just checking something quickly. But I wasn't. I was looking for a reason to be busy. I started responding to emails that didn't need responses until Monday. I made a to-do list for the week, then reorganized it. I opened a document I'd been meaning to work on, stared at it for a few minutes, then closed it and opened a different one. I moved from one small task to another, none of them urgent, All of them chosen. I understand this now, because they gave me something to point to. Some evidence that the day wasn't being wasted. That I wasn't being wasted. Around midday, I remember standing in my kitchen, reheating lunch that had gone cold because I'd forgotten to eat it while I was working. And I caught my own reflection in the dark screen of the microwave, just for a second, and something about it stopped me. I looked tired. Not sleepy tired. The other kind. And the thought that surfaced, quietly, almost gently, was this: why can't you just let the day be easy? I didn't have an answer. I stood there listening to the microwave hum, and I realized I genuinely didn't know how to rest without feeling like I was doing something wrong. Like somewhere, some invisible scorekeeper was watching, marking me absent, marking me unproductive, marking me as someone who wasn't trying hard enough. That Sunday, nothing bad happened. Nothing dramatic. I didn't have a breakdown or a revelation. I just stood in my kitchen feeling the particular loneliness of being someone who couldn't give themselves permission to stop. And I think that's the part that stays with me most. I didn't fix anything that Sunday. I want to be clear about that. I didn't close my laptop and suddenly discover the art of doing nothing. I didn't meditate or journal or have some cinematic moment of clarity where everything rearranged itself into meaning. Life doesn't really work that way, and I think we've all been a little misled by stories that suggest it does. What changed was smaller than that. Almost embarrassingly small. I just started noticing. Noticing the moment my hand reached for my phone not because I needed something, but because stillness had made me uncomfortable. Noticing the way I'd fill even a 10-minute gap, waiting for water to boil, sitting in a car, with something, anything, rather than just let those minutes be minutes. And slowly, through that noticing, I began to see the pattern for what it actually was. Not discipline. Not ambition. Just an old, inherited fear, dressed up to look like productivity. There's a quiet difference between doing things because they genuinely matter to you, and doing things because stopping feels too risky. One comes from a sense of fullness. The other comes from a sense of lack, a constant, low-grade anxiety that who you are, without anything to show for yourself, might not quite be enough. And here's what I've come to believe, gently, without any grand declaration. You were enough before the to-do list. You were enough before the accomplishments. You were enough on that quiet Sunday when nothing got done and the coffee went cold and the afternoon just slipped by without producing anything at all. Worth isn't something you manufacture through motion. It was never meant to be earned, hour by hour, task by task. That framework, the one that treats human beings like machines that must justify their existence through output, that framework was never yours to begin with. It was handed to you. And you carried it, faithfully, because no one told you that you were allowed to set it down. Rest isn't a reward waiting at the end of enough hard work. It's just part of being alive. A necessary, dignified, completely ordinary part. And maybe the most radical thing any of us can do, in a world that profits from our business, is to occasionally sit with our cold coffee, in our quiet room, and decide that this, too, is enough. So if you're watching this at the end of a long day, or maybe in the middle of one, hiding in a bathroom for 2 minutes of quiet, I just want you to know something. The tiredness you feel isn't weakness. It's what happens when someone has been trying to prove something for a very long time. And you don't have to keep proving it tonight. There will always be more to do. The list never fully empties, and somewhere along the way, I think most of us quietly accepted that as a fact of life, without ever questioning whether the list was the point to begin with. It isn't. You are the point. Not the finished tasks. Not the replied emails. Not the version of you that held everything together and showed up and kept moving. Just you, the one underneath all of that. The one who gets tired. The one who sometimes stands in the kitchen and forgets why they walked in. The one who just wants, every once in a while, for the day to be allowed to be ordinary. That version of you deserves rest too. Not earned rest. Not scheduled rest. Just rest. The way rain doesn't ask permission to fall. The way evening doesn't justify itself before arriving. So tonight, maybe the question isn't, did I do enough? Maybe the softer, kinder question is simply, was I here? Did I live today, even a little? And if the answer is yes, even quietly, even imperfectly, then perhaps that was always enough.
Thank you for listening, and see you in the next story.